Andrew King, who goes by the nickname Roscoe, is Tisue Podcast guest number 4. I know Roscoe from around the base, and we are both instructors for the Airpower Leadership Academy. He is friendly, funny, outgoing, and he loves to talk. He showed interest in my podcast and on being a potential guest. I asked him what he'd want to talk about, and I was surprised by his response. Coping, dealing with stress, courage to get help, and taking care of people were the answers he provided. As we discuss these topics, we agree that pride and uncertainty of career repercussions make people hesitant to ask for help. It quickly becomes apparent that both of us are uncertain of the different avenues people have to get help. As supervisors, we are expected to understand and know these things to assist our people. It's kind of embarrassing how little the two of us actually knew. Realizing my own shortfall, I coordinated with another friend on base, Anita Garcia McClintock. Anita works at mental health and gave me an hour of her time to explain to me the different avenues people have. I took a bunch of notes, and at the end of this podcast, I'll explain the information that I learned from Anita. The next 2 hours are Roscoe's stories on coping, life, and as always, a couple of leadership ideas and philosophies thrown into the mix.
All right, everybody, welcome to Tisue Podcast, episode number 4. Today I've got a friend of mine. We've been friends for about 2 to 3 months now, Andrew King. He's the couldnt top 3 president right now. And I've been talking to him for a little bit, and I really wanted to get him on here. We shared some communication, and he has things I really think that can benefit a lot of people and on a subject that people are kind of ashamed, I guess, to talk about in a sense. So if you would, before we get started and get into the good stuff, just introduce yourself.
I am Andrew. I spit and stutter and hem and haw a little bit here and there. I'm from small town Tennessee. I joined the military about 20 years ago. I've been doing this ever since. I do enjoy it. I love it. And it's pretty much all of who I am. There's not a lot outside of that. As far as your unnatural attraction to me and what I have to say, I'm not sure where that comes from, but I am very flattered. I think that we're on the cusp, or I'm on the cusp of gaining a lot of emotional intelligence, and the conversations that we have and the challenges that you make, the things that you bring to the table really help me. So the feeling is mutual. It's not a one-way conversation.
Well, I really appreciate that, not knowing you for too long. I don't hear that, I guess, often enough. So I appreciate you saying that. But what you have to offer is something that not many people want to talk about. So it's for you being willing. I just think so many people can learn from it. And selfishly, again, for myself, I don't know much about the subject, and I'm really excited that you're willing to share. And honestly, he told me some of the stuff he's going through very generically. Just I know the realms or the avenues you're taking to get help. And outside of that, I have no idea what he's actually going through. So whenever you share it with me, it's going to be the first time I'm hearing it too. So
that's fair. I will tell you that nothing that I'm going through is really groundbreaking. I think there comes a point in most people's lives to where they have a realization, whether it's through plateau or whether it's just your midlife crisis is what they used to call it, I guess. But you just experience things and you look back and you wonder, what could you have done? How could you have done it better? And you realize, especially in the moments that you were there, you're basically a child, and that's where I'm at now. Still very much a child, still trying to learn how to walk, talk, and grow as an emotional, driven adult, understanding people, relationships, that kind of thing. So nothing that we're going to share is really groundbreaking, but it is my story, and I'm willing to put it out there.
I'm excited to hear it. So like some of you, I guess you're saying your emotional intelligence is as low as, your words, I'm not trying to insult you, as a child?
Very much so.
Even like, and when did you start getting help?
So I reached out. This is a little bit difficult, but I'll bear all. I'll bear my soul. So for the longest time, maybe the last 2 years or so, you have a cup. You fill the cup. And there's nowhere else for the cup to go. You just have life experiences, good, bad, positive, negative, so on and so forth. And then, wherever you fill your cup, that is what spews out. That's what spews over. So through a lot of mistakes and bad decisions on my own right, I filled my cup with a lot of negative things, a lot of negative energies. Wouldn't change some of the decisions that I ever made, but I would definitely treat them differently. But as you fill your cup, especially in a negative light, in a negative way, things really start to boil over. There has been times to where all you want to do, all you can do, all I want to do, not you, all I want to do is just break down, just cry, just let it out. You know what I mean? And whether it be because where you're at, who you're with, or just being a man, you don't do those things. And I still haven't ever done that. That I think that's going to be a major breakthrough for me, is when it comes time and I just let go. That'll be huge. But about, I would say, 14 months ago, 13 months ago, about the time COVID started, a lot of people got hit hard. They had to stay in their room. They had to stay in their house. There's no going anywhere. Relationships in general just take a hit, especially if you don't have very strong relationships. You don't have friends that you can count on to come check on you and so forth. So at the time, you're just there. You're trapped. You're in your own head, your own emotions, your own thoughts. And I don't think that was any sort of catalyst event, but I think that really compounded things. What we were doing was we were working 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. It was 2 weeks telework, which aircraft maintenance, you can't necessarily telework, but it's 2 weeks of telework and 2 weeks actually at work. And that went on for a good little while. So it was 2 weeks where I just sat in my house. Couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. Alcohol never helps. Been in the military 20 years. I'm an alcoholic. Self-proclaimed, self-diagnosed. It is what it is. I don't think that's actually true, but it's kind of a joke. Probably not the best joke, but whatever.
I think it's a good joke.
So you start down this negative road, this negative thought process, this negative train. And then, of course, once you start thinking about things, you can't. So you think about past life decisions, where you would be now if you did things differently, what happens if particular people didn't pass away, so on and so forth, just traumatic events. Fast forward maybe 6 months, and we got a MFLAC. Now, I believe the MFLAC is a good thing. The MFLAC is, for those that don't know, is a program in the military where they don't take any notes. It's just like you and I sitting here, we're talking, and it's a licensed therapist. It's not some schlum. It's actually somebody that actually knows what they're doing. And, in the past and the previous times, they helped me a lot with things I was going through with the marriage and my son and all kinds of the craziness. And it was really a relief just to talk to someone and let some things go and, even out that cup.
You're about the fifth person I've known. One of my troops even used it, the MFLAC, that just speak really highly of that program, because it's just you getting to talk to a human who's really good at listening.
Absolutely.
I don't even know what MFLAC stands for. Do you?
Military Family Life Counselor.
We'll go with that.
Pretty sure that's somewhat accurate.
Yeah.
So we got MFLAC in our unit, actually embedded with us in our unit. And I sit and I talk with him just because it was introduction. You had to sit and talk to him. And it was nothing personal. It was nothing huge. Just, hey, this is who I am. This is where I'm from. And then on his side, this is who I am. This is where I'm from. This is what I have to offer you and your people. It's like, okay. So he may have been in the unit a week, 2 weeks. I started seeing him more and more. And out of nowhere, I just asked him, I was like, hey, can we actually sit down and talk? And he's like, yeah. And I told him some of the things I was going through. I told him what was happening. And he was very responsive.
Yeah.
He was, personally. Very calculated, empathetic, like the conversation seemed to flow. He let me talk. He gave ideas. He asked questions. There was a sense of genuineness. Genuineness, is that a word?
Yeah, we know what you mean.
So at the end of it, he had me write some things down. He actually told me to pull out a piece of paper.
This is about 13 months ago, right?
And write some stuff down. This is more like 6 months ago,
Okay.
maybe. Right, it was before I got here. It's about 6 months. And he's like, hey, this is what I want you to do. I want you to not drink. I want you to have a better diet. I want you to go, and I want you to get these blood tests done. I can't do it for you, but you can make the appointment. And just tell him I said to do these things. I was like, okay. The moment I left that room, it was as if no one cared anymore. No one actually gave a shit. So while I speak very highly of the Mlac and what they do and how they operate and the things that go on when you're talking to that counselor, the second that I walked away from that individual, I'm right back into a health system that in my mind, and this is only my opinion, but it's what's wrong, how do we fix it, and go back to work. And that was kind of the treatment that I got. They did do some blood tests. They did this, they did that. They said, oh, you're fat. Here's how do you actually go on a diet. So they offered a class.
Did you do all those steps he asked you for? Go on a diet?
I did.
Yep.
I did for a while. And then you realize that no one really cares, and you're right back to where you were. You get the stress of work, you get the stress of moving, you get the stress of all these different things. So nothing was concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing ever congealed. So that's concerning. That's troubling just a little bit to know that that's the response that you get.
I guess something I'm curious about, and sorry to interrupt. So I was curious how you got the courage to seek help, and it sounds like it was less of you deciding for yourself and finding the courage. It sounded like there was an Mlac instilled into your unit, into your shop, and that you kind of just eventually got to that point.
Honestly, dude, it's not as easy as it sounds. So there's a matter of recognizing you have a problem. There's the matter of recognizing that you kind of need help. But had I not known what I known about the Mlac and what they do and how they work, I probably would have never asked him. And then had he not been embedded in the unit and I saw him, 3 days out of a work week, I would have never asked him.
Yeah, I feel like
there's no way.
That was the advantage you had to get the help, is that Mlac was there in your unit, embedded in there. Which is something I've been sad before and like, no, maybe I should reach those avenues, and I just don't, because like you said, I'm a man, I'm not doing that. And obviously you were doing that for years until this dude was instilled into your unit and you finally
absolutely
started getting help. So if you don't mind me asking, I'm just going to be straightforward, even though we're only not even 15 minutes in. What are you like? What's bothering you? What are you sad about?
It's a lot of things. It's life in general. So, it's not a matter of, everything is very cyclic. You have ups and you have downs. There's an ebb and flow to life and how it all goes. The military in general, not the military in general, the military lifestyle in general is, I don't want to say it's designed to, but it will eat you alive. I had a realization. I didn't have a realization. I sat and I watched someone who I think is very intelligent. I have a lot of respect for him. But we sat and there was a conflict. This is a long time ago. This is years ago. This has probably been 8 years ago. There was a relationship, and there was a female, and she's just dogging men in the military. Hey, men in the military ain't shit. This ain't, you guys are all trash. You cheat, you lie, you do this, you do that. And not saying it's the perfect perspective, but however, the thing that he said, and this was on the fly, so I know he was thinking about it. But he said, you know what? Men in the military are not necessarily trash. You sit, so here we are at Korea. Korea is a perfect example. You sit in a position, you meet someone, they're great, right? You meet a partner. They're the most amazing woman that you've ever met in your life. You date for a little while, you go here, you go there, you do this. 2 months pass, and now you're starting to think about where you're going next. So what do? Do you say goodbye to this person forever, or do you roll the dice, take the chance? The divorce rate in the military is so high, and I don't know what that rate is, but it is so high, and I don't think it is comparable to the divorce rate outside the military. Most things, when you start to compare, that's comparable. I don't think the divorce rate is. Someone could fact check it.
Yeah.
But
I feel like most of my friends and coworkers are divorced, so I can't.
Yeah.
But I'm also not a civilian, so maybe their friends are the same.
But you run into that situation, and I would say, personal experience, somewhere around 60% of the time, it's like, we're different. We're going to make it. We're going to do this. And they go and get married. And next thing you know, a year's passed. They're absolutely miserable. They're in a new state, a new place, a new country sometimes.
Is this your experience or just others?
This was the conversation. Okay. Obviously, this was my experience because I was a part of the conversation. But the moral of the story is, like, don't judge or don't discredit the man based upon what's going on in your relationship, because here's some things that you haven't considered. And those are the type of emotional intelligent ideals that I'm trying to get in touch with. The things that you don't know, the things you don't think about. For 20 years, I've been told how to walk, talk, dress, think, what to say, how to introduce myself, how to respond to people, how to react, what time I'm supposed to be somewhere, how early I'm supposed to be there, what I'm supposed to do when I get there, all the way down to how I tie my shoes. At what point do you ever get any sort of emotional, like, there's no Andrew in who I've been for 20 years. There's not a lot.
I get a lot of what you're saying. I somewhat disagree. Just seeing you around, seeing you at the KT3 meetings at Airpower Leadership Academy, like, you are Andrew. You're different. You're this tall, funny guy who's in this pretty important position that a lot of people like. Everyone has to come to you for things. So to hear you don't think you have emotional intelligence, like, I can see people be frustrated with what they have to task, and they talk to you about it and you navigate them in the right way. So maybe you think your emotional intelligence isn't there all the way, but it definitely seems like there's parts of you that have it figured out more so than other people. I think you have some things figured out better than me. Approaching me at difficult tasks. I remember we were talking about Airpower Leadership falling under KT3, and you just asked me straightforward, like, hey, how do you feel about this? And I was adamantly against it, and you were just like, and you could tell just by how, like, quiet I got before, and you're like, and then I responded, and you're like, okay, makes sense, and I'm with you. Like, you can read people's emotions and respond intelligently to that better than I can say the word intelligently, and that is a sign of emotional intelligence.
So there's two sides to that. Two I don't want to say they're counterpoints, but just topics of conversation is for one, first and foremost, if I feel this way, if I am who you say I am, which I am, I'm no one else. Fun fact, if you didn't know this, in the world, you're thousands and thousands of different people because you meet and interact with thousands and thousands of different people.
Sure. And
you're never who you think you are. You're always who they perceive you to be. So if you perceive me to be that way, and there are more along you, lemmings.
Yeah.
If I feel this way, how many other people feel that way? How many other people feel worse? How many other, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's just as we're doing now, we're breaking bread. We're actually having some beers and we're going through the conversation. Just as we're doing now, we're building each other's emotional intelligence. We're building each other's intelligence. We're killing a few brain cells along the way, but it's all in good fun. And then the second piece, and I had heard this before. I had looked at this before, but after Mike Thompson said it the other day in our ALA meeting, the imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. The imposter syndrome is actually, and I don't necessarily think this is a disease. Some of the Google articles that I had read were talking about this being a disease. I don't think it's necessarily a disease. I think it's a mindset. I think there's some value to it, and I also think it's one of those things that you have to overcome. But the imposter syndrome is simply just you are a successful person, and you really just don't understand why. You're waiting on someone to figure it out.
It's where you don't you feel like you don't fit in the group you're a part of. Like you don't think you belong.
You're waiting for someone to find you to be the fraud that you think you are. I don't know how many people fall into that. I would think that somewhere along the lines, you've heard people talk about, I'm going to promote, I have a line number, I have this, I have that. Some people are very honest. They're brutally honest and say, I'm not ready for that. Well, you are. You are ready for that. You are ready for that, or you wouldn't have been chosen. That's one way of looking at it. Sometimes they're really not ready for it. I don't know. I can't explain that, but yeah, it is. It's a struggle, to say the least. Just a struggle.
Do you think you suffer through imposter syndrome pretty hard?
I think there's a lot of doubt through the things and the I don't know that imposter syndrome is necessarily the right word. It's the right title for anything that I might be going through, but it's an interesting concept. You know what I mean?
I think it's very common in the military because from when you're a low-ranking person, you're just not allowed to be in the meetings. They have rooms that only this rank can go into and you can't, and then you're finally there and you've never really been taught how to be at that rank, and then they're all saying and doing these things that you don't understand, so you're just like, I shouldn't be here. I feel that way a lot, and I don't think imposter syndrome's a lot, but a lot of times I'm in meetings, and our people are looking at me for answers, and I'm like, I don't fucking know why you guys are looking at me for this stuff, but here's my answer, and hopefully confidence gets me through it, because
you're out of your element, Donnie.
Yeah, and it's all the time.
I just going back one final touch on it, imposter syndrome. I think it's hard to define and describe and to actually put that label on someone being in the military, simply because a lot of people define success in a lot of different ways. I've not met the mark for the last 5 years for promotion purposes. And that's as far as like careerism goes. Careerism is an ugly term, but as far as careerism goes, not meeting the mark, not actually getting promoted, that is a detriment. That is
to you
the worst. No, not to me. Struggling through what I'm going through, the understanding of people and how they work, has nothing to do with being promoted. To me, it just doesn't. I met my goal in the military about 6 years ago.
You're at 21 now, right?
I'm at 20.
20.
I'm over 20.
So you didn't have to come here. Well, what made you want to come to Korea? You could.
It's funny you ask. So the thought crossed my mind. We don't say that very loud, because if you think about separating, you think about retiring, then automatically you're retiring, and then you're not given the opportunities you're not given. So we don't say that too loud, but the thought had crossed my mind. Mm-hmm. It was something I did consider. I could have applied for retirement, been approved, stayed in Kadena, which is a beautiful island, for about 5 extra months, and just retired out of there. And the reason why I didn't is because I wouldn't have been happy. I would not have been happy. I wouldn't have been complete. I wouldn't have walked away from that experience without the full closure, if that makes any sense.
It does make a lot of sense. As a guy who has 8 more years left, and my dad was military, and then when he retired, I think I was 3 when he retired, he kept getting DOD jobs, and we just kept moving around. So I've never lived in the same place for more than 3 years of my life until I went to Offutt Air Force Base for my first base.
That's where I was born.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that. Good. Yeah, it's good. I love that place. I wish I could go back. But as a military kid, and then as a guy who's been in the military for 12 years, I don't know what I will do when I retire. So for you to be like, my save. For anyone that doesn't watch the YouTube video, he opened a beer. It was exploding. He handled the business. But I do think about that all the time. Like people say, TP, that's my controller initials. Tisue, we know you're gonna do 20, probably 30 years. I'm like, 20, yes. I don't know after that. But mate, like your idea is exactly the what do you do when you get out? And I don't know. I maybe want to open just like a little scuba dive shop somewhere warm. That would be cool. Just something easy. Get a pilot's license. Just something real simple. Like one of my best friends here, Pace, he always says, I just want to work at Trader Joe's. And I'm like, you know what? That seems pretty nice too. That's a nice little store. So I could see like, is that something that bothers you? Like what is Andrew King doing when his 24 years are up? 26 years if you make senior?
So this actually, please don't misunderstand. I am in no way suicidal. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to give you my TV. Nothing crazy. I don't even have a TV, but if I did, I wouldn't give it to you.
Yeah. I didn't mean to imply that if at any point you thought I did.
No, so what I'm about to say is why I make the disclaimer.
Okay, cool.
So the issue and the problem that I run into is that you're thinking about things beyond the military, and I don't. That's the very short of it. I don't think about those things. To me and to my mind, and the repeated thoughts and I'm trying to defeat this because I know this isn't true, right? But it's retirement. I go see mom and dad for 6 months. I'm dead. I don't see anything and I'm not saying like it's within the next year or something, but I don't see life beyond the military. I don't see what I'm going to do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
I could live to be 100, but I don't see myself doing anything beyond that time frame. It's just kind of a grayness. Yeah. It's not there's no joy in it. There's no, there's no happiness.
Yeah, I could give you what, the generic, there is life after that. And future Andrew's going to figure it. I could tell you that. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm sure you've heard that before, and you don't need to hear it from me.
I actually used to teach this.
What?
So this is while we're talking about this, let's change gears just a little bit. This is a problem that I think that our profession has. So I remember way back when I was a kid, I was senior airman staff. We used to have to go to annual suicide awareness briefings. You piled in a theater. You thought it was dumb as shit. You listened to someone ramble for an hour or so about suicide and how, this hurts everyone around you. It doesn't hurt you and all this other stuff. Yada, yada, yada. And then some organization somewhere made a decision, and I think it was a great decision, that this is a very personal thing. Why do we make this a very public event? This is not the force. Why are we talking to the force? So what they did was they augmented your annual brief, and they put in quarterly training, quarterly sit downs. I was in a bomber unit, so I'm pretty sure that was probably a little bit easier for us to do. But I was a suicide awareness and violence prevention trainer for my unit, 2006 to 2009. And we led small discussions. We did this scheduled, right? It wasn't, oh, hey, it's that time, or there's something happened. No, this was scheduled. And we had some really good talks. We had some really good conversations. And then right before I left Barksdale, it went from that to a CBT. I don't know if you remember that or not. Computer-based training, where you just sit and click through some slides.
Over suicide awareness?
Yeah.
I remember that.
And that's where we've been for quite some time. And now, you know, the Air Force, the military in general, has a suicide problem, and we wonder why, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential factors there, especially the the igen generation. I know we're older than that, and that's not us. But just in general, I'm going to say kids, and I know they're not that much younger than us, but these kids have been able to, since they've been born, get the answer to everything and anything they want, and now they have to go into boot camp and then a tech school that's 6 months, boot camp's 8 weeks, and they're no longer able to just get the answers they want as quickly. They have to be disciplined and structured, and they can't ask mom or dad for help or the people they care about, and it's just this whole different regimen that, it's a completely different atmosphere for them. They're just not used to, so I could see that being a huge stressor to them.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I don't...
And we're not far removed from it to where we have adopted these realms, and then we move units, and they're kind of more structured, and it's difficult.
Yeah, so I don't know... I don't know what makes us cope any more or any less. I don't think we do. I remember when I left. So I left Barksdale in March of 2009. I got to Osan, Korea, March the 3rd. And I want to say, and I remember this guy. He was a good dude. He was a crew chief. I remember him mostly because his name was King. My name's King. I remember mostly because
it's hard to remember.
It's absolutely. It's impossible. And it was not even the end of March. You know, I worked with this guy. I saw him every day. I knew who he was. He killed himself. And I'm just like, wow. And that was the first experience. That was the first experience, actually the first of many since then, to where someone did something. Someone took their own life. Someone hurt themselves in a way for things that I'll never know. I'll never understand. And, honestly, when people look at those situations and they try to justify it, you can't justify it. You've been very open, very honest. You have no idea what I'm going through. No one does. And even sitting here telling you about it, you get a granule. You get pieces and portions and parts, but you don't feel that.
Can you just tell me what is the saddest thing you have going on right now?
Actually, right now, so right now is probably the best time of my life.
That's good.
To brighten things up a little bit. It's the best time of my life. So I reached out to a friend. We're going back to my story. Within the last 6 months, within the last 4 months, I would say the last 4 months, I have a friend of mine. His name is Dougie Brown. He is an amazing guy. And he and I'll tell you a story how we met. And it's crazy. But we're both very alpha male. Mm-hmm. Both very just presence. And I walked into Osan, and I got a crew. Being a staff sergeant, having a crew, that's kind of the thing you do. It's who you are. It's what happens. He had walked into Osan a day or two before me, a day or two after me. I think it was a day or two before me. But they didn't give him a crew. They didn't give him a crew. They put him on a crew. So it was staff. And I was staff A1C, right? And I was the crew leader. And we're sitting in a little break room there, and fuck is one of my favorite words, so I'm about to use it. I
have a little explicit tab that I get to click when I post it on YouTube. So you say all you want.
Awesome. So we're sitting in the break room, and he looks at me and he says, "When did you sew on, Staff Sergeant?" Right? And this is no small.
Dougie Brown said that to you?
This is no small black man. Like he's intimidating in his own right. And he says, "When did you sew on, Staff Sergeant?" I was like, "Hey, I sewed on, yada yada." And he said, "I sewed on in June, like 3 months before me. What if do you have a crew and I don't?" I said, I really don't know. If you want my crew, you can have them. And he stopped talking, just like that. And he stopped talking. And I don't think we talked for probably 2 days. And then we were the best of friends. Like it was
that conflict.
It was the Nat Geo, 2 alpha males, ramps, and then that was it. Like we bumped heads. I'm not giving in. You're not giving in. Like there's cave, whatever. And we move on. I spent the next 4 years with him, and he got out of the military. I'm still in, of course. But I talk to this dude twice a week now. He's got his things going on. He's got his own issues, his own problems. I got my issues. I got my problems. And that dude told me a long, long time ago. He told me a couple of things. I won't tell everything he ever told me. But the deal that we have right now, and I'll hold it up, is I will do a retirement ceremony for him. He is the only reason, and he's coming. So, like, that's for him to say that to me. That's a big deal. I was adamantly against it. I didn't want to do it. I don't want people that don't know or care to celebrate me for things that I never did for them. You know what I mean?
Do you think that little people care about you?
No, I think that's typically how retirement ceremonies go.
I guess opposite. I feel like anyone I've been to, I cared about the person, and I haven't been to one I don't care about yet.
Well, I mean, you do have people, you do have friends, you do have, there's a small portion of the audience, but a lot of that is, some people go to be seen, some people go because they're told to go. Some people, you got the proffer, who has no idea who the fuck you are. You know what I mean? And those guys are there and they clap and congratulations. They have no idea. They don't care. He actually cares. He said, you're going to do this. So let's go. Okay, sweet. So I've been talking to him, and I asked him outright. I was like, dude, you're the smartest guy I know. And you're by far the best friend I got. This is what I'm going through. And I told him. And he has been my therapist. He tells me I need a therapist, which I think is pretty smart advice. But he has been my therapist for the last 4 months.
Did you get a therapist?
I have not yet.
What's holding you back from doing that?
Right now?
If Doug's telling you to do it?
Right now, it's timing. Okay, so just within the last week, I called Dougie up, and we started talking. We're going back and forth. I said, hey, man, this is what's going on. This is what I'm going through. This is my experience. And he goes back to a mutual character that we shared time with. And these are some of the things that you struggle with being in the military, right? Is that draconian or that...
what's draconian? I don't know what that is.
It's kind of leadership through fear, go do. It's an absolute, like, I told you to go do that, right?
Like cohesive power.
We could Google it, and I can tell you exactly what it is. But it's it's not the best of leadership styles. Sure. So we had this guy. He was a 2-year guy at OSAN on his second year, and all he wanted to do was appease me. He wanted approval. He wanted to make me. I was the by that point I was the expediter. So I was not running a crew anymore. I was running crews.
And that's a prestigious job in your career field.
Especially as a staff sergeant, yeah.
As tech sergeant.
I was a staff sergeant with no line number, and they chose me. They handpicked me to do that. And I never, that dude couldn't do a good enough job. You know, that dude he couldn't meet the mark, and decisions he make, you know. Like, I would find a fault in everything that he did. Maybe the third time Dougie and I have had that conversation about him. And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, put me in contact with this guy, because I don't have contact with him. He's out of the military now. Put me in contact with this guy so I can make amends. and it truly is, because when you look back on the situation, you're like, did that really matter? Like, you wasted 12 minutes out of an hour job, and I'm railing on you. I'm telling you how big a piece of shit you are, trying to make you do it better. Like, that's the intent, is to make you do it better, to make you think better, to make you be more efficient. But instead of you saying, hey, good job, you know, if you hadn't have done this, you'd have been 12 minutes faster. You'd have been, you know, if you hadn't have done it this way, or if you had got all your tools and went out there, whatever the case may be. Like, instead of giving the pat on the back, giving the good job, said, you know, think a little bit different, you'd be better. It's right the opposite. There's the focus on the negative aspects of everything. Waste, just, it's it's terrible when you look back at those things. It's terrible when you see those things. And the ideal, the principle, is not to do those things or be that person or bring up the negative aspects of everything in order to be negative. It's to try and drag the betterment out of people.
For work, not so much for their...
For work, right?
And I think...
And that is exactly the biggest detriment of it all, is you're not focused on the person anymore. You're more focused on the job.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's tough. I just feel like a fundamental, like, basic thing on getting people to do what they want that I learned maybe in ALS is if you want people to perform well or work hard, they need to feel like they belong. And if people don't feel like they belong, they're just not gonna, like, work hard. So, yeah, like, people feel like they belong when they're around people when they feel like they belong, when they're around people that care, and just getting some fundamental positive feedback once in a while, doing their job instead of all negative. That sucks. And my career field's no different. It's just fun. It's fun to be in a position where you get to tell people where you sucked. It's not fun to compliment people. Most people don't find satisfaction in that. And it's just something that we need to change. And even though you didn't get that for your first 20 years, you're now in a position to do that for the people behind you for the next 4 to 6 years.
So it's something that we have to change. It's nothing that I'm going to change, right? I'm going to change it on myself. I want to change it, for the immediate sphere of influence that I have, the people that are directly around me. But if no one really understands, or no one ever comes to the same realization that I am now, you're going to fall in the same cyclic, very detrimental and destructive path. Because what happens is, and you can argue this, you're welcome to, but what happens is you have a year, you have 12 months. It actually turns out to be like 9.5.
You talking about
9.5 to 10 months. No, talking about an EPR cycle,
okay.
right? Sure. So your EPR starts, and hey, this is what I expect you to do, yada, yada, yada. And then, in 4 to 6 months or whatever, you have your...
For anyone that's not military, EPR is like our annual evaluation, and that's basically how you get promoted off of.
Correct.
Yeah.
So after the period of 10 months, well, how did you do? Well, how do you know how you did? There's measurable and there's immeasurable. Well, it's kind of hard to measure the immeasurable, which is the people that you lead. Mm-hmm. But it's really easy to measure the stuff that have metrics to it. your QA rate, your mission effectiveness rate, how many jobs you did. For us, we have it's called the WS pass rate. So we get certified every month, every other month. It's really easy to see those things and measure those out because they have metrics involved.
Yeah.
But how do you measure how well you actually led your people?
I think by how many of them come to, I don't know, get-togethers, you hang out, your retirement when that comes, it's just the amount of people that walk into your office and smile and say, hey, Sergeant King, how's it going today? I don't know. I guess I've never taken a moment to measure how other people view me. I think I just hope I'm doing right. I think I'm doing right.
That don't make it on your EPR.
It doesn't.
Those things don't make it on your EPR.
Yeah.
And just as we discussed, maybe 20 minutes ago or whatever, I've been trained for 20 years how to walk, talk, think, even down to tying my shoes. Mm-hmm. So is all 42 of those people that walk in my office. So when I say something, there is a trained and delivered response that comes back to me. So how effective are you at actually leading people? It's immeasurable. It really is. But what happens, and this is where we have to break the cycle, is right, wrong, or indifferent, good, bad, or ugly, you're validated by your EPR, which only shows the metrics. So if you're a shit leader, which a lot of people are, a lot of people grew up where they're yelling and screaming at basic training. They grew up in an age where they call it the great staff giveaway. I don't believe in all that, but there's the great staff giveaway. There's people that's promoted too fast. I don't believe in that either. But the way that we were trained to lead people and the way that we were led influences how we lead people, especially in the aspects of our job.
Sure.
So if I make it from A to B and eventually B to C, I'm senior master sergeant, chief. My leadership style all the way through those points has now been validated. And if I'm validated and I'm right because I made it here, a measure of success, that's the way that I'm going to train my senior NCOs, my junior NCOs to lead more people. It's very cyclic. And at some point or another, we have to break the cycle.
Are you not happy with some people that are currently?
I've seen it. I don't want to say that everyone is that way, because you do have some phenomenal leaders. I have phenomenal leaders here. Some are just abrasive. They're really good people. They know what they're doing, and if you break through that thick outer layer, they're really good at what they do, and they'll share that with you. But if you don't, then you get the type A, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to say that everyone is that way. So please don't take that away as that's the understanding.
I don't.
But there are a lot of people.
There are, sure. There's way more than we want or need. I read this book once. I think I'm going to mess it up. The No Asshole Rule. But what that book taught me was like everyone has a role. And every flight has this one fucking asshole that everyone hates. And when that guy leaves, another person is going to take that role, whether it's a new person or someone that already exists. There's always the person that everyone hates. And then there's just different roles in leadership, and everyone has their roles. Because even if me and you are perfect leaders, you can't just have 100 Andrew Kings or 100 John Tissues. Like, you just have to have different people that can approach and do things differently. I agree with you. We have more bad leaders at times than we need. But at times they are good. I remember there was this asshole when I was a brand new airman. He was an asshole, and he would always just get mad and scream. But because he would be that way, I would have to learn, how do I get him to stop? And it's, know these random stupid rules that only he cares about. But I learned those random stupid rules that only he cares about, and I might have slept a little less that night, but I am better from it today. And if we didn't have people like that, I wouldn't have cared. I would have just been like, whatever, they're going to pass me because I'm funny. And I would have carried on all my life doing that. So it's nice to have just people in different roles that can push you in different ways. And
did you ever wonder, though, wonder, like, why that dude was that way? And then, more importantly, like what makes him, think in that manner?
What makes him be like that?
Yeah.
I think he got off on bullying people.
You think so?
Yeah. I have, when I was a brand new 5 level and I had that power over 3 levels, I caught myself exercising that. And I'm not proud of it now, but it is fun. It is fun to show I'm smarter than you. I have this virtuous, self-righteous position that you hope to only one day achieve, and I control that. And to bully people. Bullying is fun. We gotta learn how to not do that.
Well, I think so. First of all, I think there's an aspect of it. So I remember a particular tech sergeant that was in my life, very young. He retired as a tech sergeant. Very abrasive.
Like, did 20 years retired?
20 years retired. Very abrasive. There was always angry, grumpy, or angry, angry. There was never happy-go-lucky. I think I saw this dude smile like maybe 3 times. And I learned so much from that guy. I have a huge amount of respect for him, the things he did, and the things he taught me. The way that he led me would never fly today. It just wouldn't. Mm-hmm. So I think there's you don't want to make excuses for anybody. I think there's some of those people, because you just mentioned bullying. I think there's some of those people that's the personality they try to emulate, and they just never get there. Mm-hmm. Their motives are all fucked up. They're wrong. Maybe they don't understand it as well as they think they do. But I think there's value added to that. Now, would that fly today? Absolutely not. There's no way. I'll tell you a story just to give you an idea of how this guy led me. I got my 5 level. And in maintenance, getting your 5 level is huge. That's like a huge accomplishment. I got my 5, or it was. It's not as big today. I got my 5 level. So we're standing in a roll call, and they make this announcement. Say, oh, yeah, King got his 5 level today. He's checklist quality, yada, yada. He's full up, maintenance qualified. He can do everything. So he looked right at me in roll call, in front of God and everybody. Mm-hmm. And he said, I bet you by the end of the day, I'm going to catch you doing something stupid. And I was like, Raj, no, you're not. Like, that's not who I am. You know better. So
what rank at this time?
I was an A1C.
Okay.
I was an A1C. And we went through the day's work, and we did all this other stuff. We had this one task we had to do. It was a Friday. We had to take all the impulse carts. They're little explosive devices. We had to take them all out of all the jets. So I was like, hey, go hit them. Go hit them all. So the way the aircraft were parked, it was like, call it nut to butt. They're, nose, tail, mm-hmm. all the way down. So I started. I went all the way down. I came all the way back around. I got to the last jet. Last jet. Right here is the ECP. All I got to do is, like, that's the finish line. I'm done. And I could not reach this cart. I couldn't.
You're pretty
couldn't,
tall. Why
couldn't
reach it.
The jet was a little higher. Trying to reach around the missile. Like, by that point, I guess I was tired. I have no idea, but I couldn't reach it. So what'd I do? Not the right thing. I didn't go get the ladder, which is what I should have did, especially being it's 200 feet that way. I set my cart can down, and I stood on top of it, pulling this cart out. And I didn't even see him come around.
What's a cart can? Does it have wheels on it? Just not?
No, it's just an ammo can. A 50 mil can is what it is. It's
like a microwave-looking box?
You've probably seen it. It's an ammo can. Okay. It's probably about yay tall, about yay wide, about this long, whatever. But I'm standing on it. I'm pulling this cart out. And he pulls around the nose of the aircraft, and he just yells at me, hey, Junior. And I look at him. Told you. And he drove off. And I learned from that. I learned a lesson from that. Whatever it is, you decide. But I knew he knew. He knew I knew. And that's all he had to say. That was it. There was no paperwork. There was no ass ripping. There was nothing. And he knew that was effective.
Yeah. And you probably at the time thought I might get an ass ripping in paperwork.
Oh,
later.
I thought I was fucked.
Exactly. So roles, like even though this guy was a grumpy asshole, he had his role and he taught you something that you remember fucking 18 years later.
I was fucked.
You're not. Here you are.
Yeah, I'm good.
So since we're speaking about 18, 19-year-old Andrew, if you could like go back in time 20 years and tell that young Andrew something, what would you tell him?
18-year-old Andrew?
Yep. Were you in the Air Force then?
I was. 18-year-old Andrew before I come to the military. Don't marry that woman. That would have been the start. Don't marry that woman. I don't know. I think so. I read something just today. I'm gonna fuck it up. I have no idea. I'm not even gonna fuck it up. I'm gonna paraphrase completely, but it was along the same lines of there's only 2,555 days of your teenage years if you add it all up, and the whole moral of the story was to just appreciate the freedom, appreciate having good knees and a good back, and people in your life, wherever they may be, telling them you love them, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty powerful. It's easy to say, and I don't think a teenager, even reading that, I don't think a teenager would understand that.
Oh, you take it for granted. You don't
You know what I mean?
You think you're going to keep working out and you're always going to be healthy.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
never going
You
to
have
go
no
bald.
idea.
Yeah. I'm
idea.
slowly growing into those moments.
I didn't know what the difference in 37 and 38 was. Now I do.
When I got to my first base, his name was Spencer Watson, and he just randomly was like, "Hey, what year were you?" I look young even now. He's like, "What year were you born?" I was like, 1990. And he was like, "Holy shit, here you are, finally in 1990." It was like a big deal to a lot of people that a kid born in the 90s was there. And now when I tell people, "Oh, I was born in 1990," like, "Oh, you fucking old ass." It's like, fuck, guys. Like, and I'm actually looking forward to the moment where I meet someone in my career field that was born in 2000. I know they exist, but they could be damn near 21 now if you're born in 2000.
You should come in the maintenance career field.
Yeah, I haven't met one yet.
Yeah, they're there.
Yeah,
they're around.
I'm excited to get pumped up to meet one, and I'm sure there's probably some 2001, 2002s by now.
It's funny you say that though. Because there are people in the military right now, right? This is just the generational gap that we experience. There are people in the military right now that were not alive and did not experience September 11th, 2001. That's mind-boggling. That's mind-boggling. And when you look back on things, the tech sergeant we were just talking about, he's in Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I remember about Desert Storm? Jack shit. I was in 3rd fucking grade. I don't remember that shit. And then you go back before that, and there's people in Vietnam. My uncles fought in Vietnam. World War I, World War II. So there's huge generational gaps in all of that. I think some of that, especially when you're talking about, you said igen. I've never heard of igen.
That's the 1995 to something when people once they were conscious.
If I ever have to know that and understand what X and Y and all those things are, I'm gonna have to Google it.
Yeah, internet generation is what it stands for.
Because I don't know what they are.
Yeah, it's interesting just to see how these new people learn and what they care about, where their values are. They care a lot more about what people. I thought I cared a lot about what people thought about me when I was a kid, but man, now it's huge. Just
it's all likes.
Yeah,
it's all likes and comments.
But that's in us, instinctively, to be tribal and be accepted and be a part of a group. But now there's
you never had the platform like you have now.
Yeah, and everyone has it.
Never had the platform like you have now. It's insane.
So I don't want to come back to this, but just something that really, I was going to talk to you either way, but just the fact that you were open to the mental health side of it. If you're willing, I'm just really curious, how, what you're what bothers you, how like the process of you getting help happened, what it's like to get help. Is it as intimidating as I think it is, as to where like my career is done if I get help? Is that even a thing that has came up since you started getting help 13 months ago, or considering it?
No one knows. First of all, no one knows. So this is like the big, hey, I'm getting help. This is the big announcement. No one knows. No one knows. I've had a couple people that I don't know if they care enough or they're cognizant enough to realize that, hey, something's wrong. You okay, dude? No one has asked me beyond that. But no one knows. No one has the insider scoop the way that you do, other than Dougie, of course. So that's kind of big. You talk about the health aspect and Mlac. There's no notes. There's no documentation. There's no nothing. You go in the military and into the MTF, the hospital there, and say, hey, I need to get this, and this done because of XYZ, by order of Major, Doty. Major Doty is the Mlac there at Cadena. Okay. There's no question asked. Oh, you had a whatever they call it, Kim panel, whatever, just all your hormones and stuff. And apparently I'm normal.
Good.
That is good. I think so.
Sorry, Major Doty, can Mlac just send you to mental health and be like, you must go here, or can they just suggest you do it?
So, no.
Good.
I don't think so. So with Mlac, there's a couple rules with Mlac, and I'm probably gonna fuck this up. By all means, ask the question if you're considering going to Mlac. If you're still listening at this point, and you're considering going, by all means, ask. Because some people's careers are in jeopardy. But the Mlac can only notify anyone else if you're going to hurt yourself, hurt someone else, or do something illegal. So it's not free range. If you walk in there and say, I'm about to blow my fucking brains out, then
or kidnap my child from
whatever the case may be. I'm pretty sure on that one. I don't know who can do what and who says what and who has a zero disclosure, like, you can tell me anything. Mm-hmm. But the Mlac is not one of those things. Again, could be very, very wrong when I say this, but other than command-directed mental health appointments, I don't think there's anyone that can actually tell you to go to mental health. I know as a senior NCO, I can't tell someone, hey, man, you're kind of fucked up in the head. You're going to mental health.
Yeah.
I can strongly encourage you. I can put it out there. I can say, hey, man, I'm going to make a call, make an appointment. I suggest you go. But I can't tell you to go. And I could be way off. I could be way wrong.
Yeah. But I don't know the answer either, so I'm guessing you haven't been to mental health yet.
I've not. I've not. No, I haven't. I'm willing to explore that. I'm not so willing not to.
A lot of people are. A lot of people are unwilling to go there. They just pride, masculinity.
You also
what
have
people will think of them.
You also have careerism at stake.
Sure, I agree.
So there is some of that.
Number one.
There are people in particular positions, top secret clearances, PRP, just different things. Do you carry a weapon? And Mike is probably the guy to ask about that. But I'm not quite sure how that works out in their world. But yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my question is just, how's that process going for you? Just, you've talked to the Mlac.
So I gave up on the Mlac.
Okay.
I did. I gave up on the Mlac.
So what are you doing now?
I'm at the Mlac here.
Okay.
much the same way that we transgress through life. Is you find what's effective and you find what works for you, and you go on. As far as, so I'm not entirely concerned. Do I need medication or anything crazy like that? Because I did go to the hospital. I did get checked out. I did, I talked with. So there's nothing alarming about my situation. It's life. It's a crisis and so on and so forth. And I'm coping.
How are you coping?
Actually, I'm glad you asked. Talk with Dougie for a long, long time. Great dude, great mentor, best friend. Can't give him enough props. He knows it. Like at the close of our conversations, it is what it is. It's two grown men. I love you, man. I love you too. Mm-hmm. That's just who we are. So on his advisement, it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not reaching out to this person or that person? Or, there's people that you'll never reach out to, just because that's not the nature of your relationship at this point. But there are people that you definitely should. So if you've ever hurt anybody, if you ever had a traumatic event or something distraught, anything along those lines, highly encourage you. This has been my take on things. Call them, message them. Hey, can we talk for a few minutes? Maybe you don't necessarily talk about specific events, right? So it is what it is. Sometime in 2014, it was early 2014. Sometime in early 2014, I lost a child. I lost a baby, not a child, not born yet. Traumatic event. It's just something that broke me and that person. I love her dearly. She's a great friend of mine. And that was one of the first things she said to me. She's like, you want to talk? Okay, we can talk. We're not talking about that. Okay, we're not talking about that. And we talked about everything else going on. And at the end of it all, we both said things that we've not ever been able to say to each other, ever. And it was relieving. We closed the conversation, closed that conversation with, you know what? I said, I'm sorry. I've been forgiven. You'll never hear those words again. I'm going to do better now. I'm actually going to initiate change. I'm going to make change. I'll be the person who you needed me to be. Mm-hmm. And that's how I'll live up to your forgiveness. You know what I'm saying? And that alone, that was a weight. That was a huge weight for me.
That was 7 years ago. You still feel that way? You're
Absolutely.
Still doing those things?
Absolutely. There was a lot more that happened in that relationship. A lot of things, a lot of mistakes on my part, and I know that, and I understand that. But just having that conversation and finally coming two grown adults, it's not adolescents having a conversation anymore. It's not children talking over one another and not respecting each other's ideas and this hurt me. Okay, well, big deal. No, tell me why did that hurt you and what did I do? And I never knew you felt that way. And even now, that's hard for me to understand and comprehend. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So those are the types of things. And that's why I say I feel better now than I have in years.
So you would suggest coping, your best way of coping is just talking to these people that you feel like you've let down?
For my particular issues, a lot of my issues, my problems, the weights and the burdens that I carry are people. It's relationships that I've destroyed. I talked to a guy the other day. I talked to him. He sent me a message. I was like, hey man, I'm so glad you messaged me. And out of everything that we talked about, everything that I thought that I had done wrong to this person, he's like, that didn't bother me at all. Like no, you're just whatever. You know, he blew all that off. In the moment, blew all that off. He's like, no, that's the job that you had to do, and that's who you were, and that's the role you fulfilled.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about myself much. This is about you, but there's definitely moments where I'm like, even currently, there's people I should talk to, things that I feel bad about, and I just refuse to do it. And so to hear like you tell me like this is what really bothers me, and here's how I can fix it, I just talk to the motherfucker. I guess that's a bad word to use in this situation, but just to talk to the people, it's not as easy said as done. Like I don't have
very
that
hard
mental, and I don't want to even. It's easier for me to just pretend the person doesn't exist and that mistake never happened.
It's very hard.
Yeah,
it's very hard. But I will tell you that you will never gain the emotional intelligence from that situation if you don't face it, and then you will never grow as a person. Don't do it for you. You know, I don't want to do it for me.
Mm.
That's I carry a lot of weight and I carry a lot of burden, and it's therapeutic for me. It is something that I'm dealing with, I'm coping with. But you know, I talked to the guy going back, however long it was, the young staff sergeant that just wanted my approval. You know, when we first started talking, he was like, "No, I never thought that. You were only doing things to make me better. You were."
This is Dougie?
No, this was the guy that Dougie keeps bringing up, right? He told me, he's like, you were only doing things to make me better. You were only trying to get more out of me. And then, hey, I hit him again. I was like, no, you're right. That was my goal. That was my purpose. That was where my heart lied.
Yeah.
I was getting more out of you.
There's a satisfaction in making people better. And I've heard this quote once. I forget exactly how it goes, but when people stop telling you where you're fucking up, it's because they've stopped caring about you. Like it takes effort to tell people where they messed up, especially in a polite, decent mannered way. And so the fact that you just kept doing it shows. Like when people realize that, it takes like a sense of calmness to really think about, like with this asshole tech sergeant you're talking about. It took you a while to realize probably that he actually just cared, and that's why he kept correcting me. And it's a lot of things people just don't realize. But like when I can think of a lot of people I work with that people don't correct them anymore because they've given up on them. It's just easier to not care.
So you're correct. And I don't know that it's necessarily that people don't care. It's that people have stopped putting forth the effort to try and figure out how to speak to that individual.
I agree with that.
And that's where there's a problem is so, and I think that's like the end result. That's where we're going. That's where my journey takes me next is, you know, I don't want to do this for me. You know, like the weight's lifted and I feel better and my cup is empty. But at the same time, you know, especially, you know, we go back and there's military, there's retirement. I'm going to go see mom and that's it. You're working in a career field. You're working in a profession. No matter where you're at, as long as you're in the DOD, you're replaceable. You're not replaceable. You're like a skin cell. Eventually, you're going to fall off, and there's going to be another skin cell that just takes your place. Right?
Yeah.
So, if you're not building that individual, if you're not building that person to be as good as you were or better, then you're. I don't want to necessarily say you're failing,
mm-hmm.
but you're kind of doing a disservice.
Yeah.
And I think that's somewhere where we need to grow. That's where I want to grow, is because I don't want idiots taking over for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want somebody that doesn't. If I feel like I'm emotionally ignorant and I can't reach people, I'm very good at the weapons side of things. I'm very good at my job. I'm terrible at the people side.
Yeah.
If I can't teach people, especially the guys who are very good at what I do, how to reach the people and make a better me, then I'm going to turn this over, and there's just going to be a degradation in the effectiveness of that.
So when I brought you on here, the main thing that I really wanted to figure out and like talk to you about, I mean, we're buddies and KT. There's a lot of other things we haven't even scratched yet.
I can't stand you.
Oh, well, that sucks.
I'm joking.
I believe you. But it was the mental health side of things, or I guess not mental health, but just like your coping and what you're going through. Because I knew you were going through things. You were telling me that like as we were drinking, and I was like, hey, let's talk about it on here because I think it'd be great for people to hear, an avenue for people to see like grown ass, tall, masculine men that play softball throughout the week and all sorts of sports in their 40s. What are you, 38, 39, 40? In that realm.
Somewhere there.
Yeah,
I'm not 40
counting.
yet.
Okay, 40 yet. Awesome. Yeah. For you to
I'm 38.
38. Okay.
Yeah, had to do some math. I'm 38.
That's not bad.
Fat, white, and bald, all by choice.
But the two things that I've picked up on what I think are making you sad, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there's two sides of it. There's you and your personal relationships with people, with the loss of your unborn child, and just people you need to talk to in the past. And the second side of it that we haven't really talked about is, I guess you feel like people are just being aren't led correctly. The people behind us in this career field that you're very passionate about aren't being taken care of. And so my question that I want you to answer, you don't have to respond to all that, is just how do we better take care of people? Because it seems like that's what's important to you, and that's what's making you feel bad is people aren't being taken care of. But if that's not a correct opinion I've made through this,
no, I think that's spot on. That's actually where a lot of this comes from. Is I feel especially recently I felt very ineffective in the way that we do take care of people. And just to be clear, taking care of people is not pizza parties. It's not barbecues. It's not, some people say, CTOs and this, and that's
what's CTO?
Time off, getting a day off, and that's effective to a means, right? That's effective to a point because some people just need a day off. They need time to go do their own thing. But that's not really taking care of people. And here's the struggle. And if someone can figure this out and fix this and correct me, put me back on the path to where this is right, because I do see both sides, but I have an issue when this is all we focus on. So, personal experience. Just had a buddy of mine. He's a good friend of mine, but he sends me updates all the time. We were just at Kadena together. I've known this dude for 20 years, but we were just in the same shop in Kadena together. He's a very smart. Everything that I feel I'm lacking in people, he has naturally. He does those things. He makes those connections. He's a very smart, intelligent man when it comes to people. Leads people in ways that I can't. Probably never will. So he sent me a message the other day saying, "Hey, I just want you to know." And it's a picture of one of my dudes from Kadena that just got BTZ. Super proud of this guy. Absolutely deserving, right? But then I just think about, so we go from his BTZ, this guy is, I don't want to say he's giving me this picture. He's I don't want to say he's kind of celebrating in his success as his success. And I don't necessarily think the intention was for him to share this event with me so that I share in his success as my success. Because I look back at some of my EPRs, a lot of my EPRs, and that's one of the things. So what are you doing for people? How are you leading people? And you talk about the metrics. Well, how many BTZs did you win? How many CCFs did you get?
It's on there.
It's always on there. That should be. Absolutely. But does it mean something? My issue is we got this guy BTZ. He deserved it. $300 in his pocket a month for 6 months. something like that.
if that.
That's an award. That's an achievement in his own. And then of course he's a BTZ winner, so he's going to carry that. There's
rest of his career.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you really do for that guy? Do you know who he is? Do you know what he does? Do you know where he's from? Do you know what bothers him? What doesn't? Do you know what his goals are? Are you meeting his goals? How are you helping him meet his goals? What if he never wanted BTZ in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
What if this dude wants to use his AF Cool so he can get an HVAC license and just move back and work and help dad out? You see what I'm saying? So while I understand we helped this kid, did we help that kid or did we feed our own egos? Did we try to validate ourselves?
I think it's part of both. I think we fed our own egos because I find so much success and accomplishment in when other people get recognized under me. There's some weird, unexplainable thing that I get when people I care about or below me get an award. But as far as him, he still has that option to get that Air Force Cool. Like all you did is open it, show another door he could walk through. I don't think there's way more positive from this than negative. And it sounds like you're, man, like this dude had some great things and you're looking at the worst side of it.
I'm trying to, so you're right. You're spot on. What I want to understand and what I want to try and focus on is not what I think his needs are. What are his actual needs? And that's the question that I have. You see what I'm saying?
I do. And I feel like that can, like, so once this guy gets BTZ, even you have left, you should just, you're a fucking great dude, cool dude. You play softball, like I said. You do a lot of things right. You should reach back. Hey, you got BTZ. What are your actual plans? Like now you're on this platform. Everyone knows your success. What do you want to do? People are now really going to help you do it. It's a 1 minute message. And this dude now has this avenue on. Sergeant King, this badass dude, fucking left, but still cares about me.
That's a great plan.
There you go. At 1:20, you can be reminded of it.
And I'll do that.
Yeah, so simple. 1 minute.
There's 72 people assigned to that flight,
mm-hmm.
and he's one BTZ winner out of the 72. So if he's the guy that I helped, like there's more.
Yeah.
There's more to it. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
There's more to it. I work on airplanes. Airplanes are easy. Airplane don't work, replace this part. It's very, very simple. There's a fault tree. Do this, it didn't work. Do this, it didn't work. Do this. People are like calculus compared to working on airplanes. How many people know and understand calculus?
I don't.
And we don't take the class. We don't get taught these things. It's
yeah. I think you just think about in the realms of what you can help. So you can help this one guy with a minute of your time after this hour and a half long discussion, and there's 71 others you can't help. But there's also, I don't know how many 20 to 25-year-olds exist in the world. I'm going to guess 500, 700 million. You can't help all those, and you never will, unless, it's going to take a huge positional power to get on that avenue. So you can only help what you can. And you got to...
Profound, John. Very profound.
I just start speaking. But I just feel like you are a great dude, and you've already influenced me just off this hour and a half and even before this. So you have influence. You and it's so easy for me to say you can't help everyone in the world. But I think that's the obvious answer. You just can't. Even President Barack Obama, President Trump, President Biden, we can't help everybody. You can just help your immediate influence and the position that you are put into to help that person. Like you and I right now together doing this.
I think you and I doing this is helping those people that can help those people. So
both
I think
influential.
that the sphere of influence is growing just a little. And who knows? Maybe some of your listeners, maybe your 130 listeners, like 128 of them, this dude's so full of shit. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Me or you?
Who knows?
Yeah, maybe all of them.
Either or.
Honestly, just of this, like, I did this, so I keep saying this selfishly for myself, because when we're here like this with these mics and this camera, like, we just really speak the truth. And like I'm learning from it. Like I have fucked up so many times. There's this dude who actually he won Air Traffic Controller of the Year for 2019, and he's now here at Kunsan in ROM. And I've only seen him once. I was when he was a brand new 3 level. I was his crew boss, which is like his leader I led like 12 people in air traffic at Moody. And I haven't really like told the dude how fucking cool it is that I knew him, had an influence on his career. And the dude was the best air traffic controller of 2019. And like, man, kind of fucked up there. Like, and now after this, it's a far walk, but maybe I go fucking, he can't drink it. Like I just want to do something for him. Like these conversations just make me want to be a better fucking person because I realize how many fucking people I've let down.
That's all I want to do. That's all I want to do. That's my goal.
So how do other people be better people? It's your goal. How do we make other people do it?
You have to find your own ways.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing, right? So thinking early, because I knew we were going to have this conversation. I knew we're gonna talk about this. You look at an actual child, an infant, and they grow and they learn and they gain intelligence simply by doing. Look, listen, and feel, and touch. They chew on shit. That's what they do, right? You don't gain the same emotional intelligence just through those actions.
Mm.
It's one of those oddities to where if you don't have relationships, then you don't ever build that strength, that trait. So I think the first thing is just knowing, understanding, and realizing that you do, and I think that's pretty obvious, I would hope, but it took me years to understand that, that you do have relationships, and they are meaningful, and they do play a part in your life. Now you have to want to be better in those relationships, whether it be personal or professional, no matter what it is.
You can get to some people who just don't care about personal and professional relations, or they only care about one or the other.
Yeah. You're spot on. Ignorance, and some people want to live in the ignorance. I'm choosing now not to, and it goes back to the situation where, like, you've been successful in the military for so long, you've treated people like shit, you've used them as people are the greatest resource in the United States military. That's true to a point, but a lot of people take that to mean to understand, or in the aspect of they're just another tool. Are they? I don't think so. But for the longest time, you just treat them as the Guess Who game, putting people in slots and so on and so forth. And the issue is, we go back to that validation. So you're validated, you're validated, you're validated. And then at some point or another, you have to realize, or don't, it's up to you, that people really are important. And they're more than the rank they wear, the tab, the name tab, the U.S. Air Force tab they have on their chest. They're more than what dorm they're in and where they're from. They actually have experiences. They have life experiences that, you'll never know if you don't talk to them. You don't build that.
Yeah. So you definitely are suggesting that there's people out in our career field that are in our organization that don't view younger ranking people as people, just as tools. How do we get them to change their mind on that?
So I'm not suggesting that. I'm telling you that's the way it is.
Okay.
And the best example of that is me.
Yeah.
I was that person. I am that person. I'm trying to be better than that person.
You were the person that looked at airmen as tools, nothing more?
I don't want to say that much. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a complete asshole.
You're changing.
But
you can't change your past if you don't just admit it.
The toxicity that people complain about, there's some just complaining in general, but the toxicity, the actual, no kidding, like when you boil it all down and there's actual toxic leadership, I would go so far as to say that I was a toxic leader. I am a toxic leader. I am still a toxic leader. I've not been tested. I've not been tried in those aspects. You say you're changed? Show me. Prove it. You see what I'm saying? So
you would think people would think you're a toxic leader? That kid that just won BTZ in Okinawa, he would say Andrew King is a toxic leader.
We're talking about perceptions again. So my perception of me is I fit the bill.
Why? What do you think you're doing that make you fit that bill as a toxic leader? So I wouldn't have thought that, knowing you.
Tough question, John. It's action reaction. It's correspondence through conversations. It's, when I talk with you, I can actually talk with you, and it's very personal. And I grew up in a world, and I don't want to make excuses again, but I grew up in a world to where there's a definitive line between who you are as a person and who you are as an NCO and airman. And I may treat you this way while we're at work, and I may treat you this way while we're out of work. And we go back to what worked for us then and what works for us now. That worked for us then. That don't work for us now. Mm-hmm. People mesh those two worlds together. I saw something the other day. It's a funny, but at the same time, it kind of gives you insight to how people think today. But they had 4 different email accounts. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. The one for this and the one for that and the one for spam and this is my real email. So, some people may still do that today with their personalities, but there's a lot of people that come to work and they are who they are off work, at work. And they are who they are off work, at work. Did I say the same thing twice?
You did.
Not sure. But those two worlds, they mesh.
Yeah.
So whether it be because that's who I grew up to be or whether that's who I am, I still view that as being the way because it's been the way for so long. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So I may see you in the gym, dap, dap, elbow. Yeah, let me help you. Good job. Nice work. What are you doing after? Let's go get pizza, whatever. And I think one of the biggest things, right? So this is a huge difference between, especially when we get to where we're at. We're senior NCOs. So you start looking for a while in the Kadena world where I was at is you had my flight, my people. Those are my people. But then in order to make my people more successful, I understood, I realized that I needed to grow this team amongst different flights. So comparatively speaking for you, you can't do what you do without having the tower. You can, obviously, without having some sort of mutual respect and relationship without the tower. But the better you are at talking with those individuals and making a unit out of 3 different flights, the more effective you will be, right?
Yeah, someone actually taught me this, sorry to interrupt, is in our organization, we have a lot of people that are they work together, but they're separate. And you just have so for us, it's radar and tower, 2 things. And we always conflict. We're we're better. No, you're better. You're stupid. No, you're stupid. And someone once put it that it's like a football team. Football references. It's an offense and a defense. And even though you're not on the same side, you're on the same team. And you just have to work together. And you got to root for them and try to make your offense or your defense better so that you can win as a team. And a lot of organizations in the Air Force fail to do that.
So the more symbiotic that whole relationship can be, the stronger your team is.
Yeah, it says it even better.
So the difference being is when I've got my team, my aspect, my scope of responsibility, I can be draconian in that way. This is the way it is, and this is how it's going to be, and you're going to do it, right? And I don't have to necessarily lead and influence you nearly as much as the guy that's an office down, that I really need your help, and I'm going to use my personal influence. I'm actually going to sit, I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to build a relationship, I'm going to do those things. So I think naturally, maybe I am that person, but I got to bring that person into my own office, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, it does.
So by no means do I think I'm ignorant. I think I'm very capable.
Yeah.
Which makes it all that harder to actually sit here and wallow in some sort of you're an idiot. You're super capable at doing this. Just go do it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. And you don't sound like a toxic leader. It sounds like the fact that you realize that you need the help from other people's organizations. I don't know the quote, but it's like when someone draws a circle to exclude you, draw a bigger circle to include them. It sounds like exactly what you're trying to do with, I don't know that Jacobian, I don't know that word, but I was watching your body language and your nonverbals. And it sounds like you're trying to do that. So again, I don't see why you think you're a toxic leader. I guess I don't work with you. So maybe that's something you need to just remove from your head. You're not. People care about you. Reach out to that guy that just won BTZ and reach out to other people. And it makes it sound way easier said than done because I'm guilty of it. You know, I was just telling you a story about how this dude won this big award, and I didn't even think about how I'm going to congratulate him. I just brought him Burger King the other day, and I was thinking it, but I was like, yeah, I don't need to thank him or congratulate him. I'm going to wait for the right opportunity. And I think that's something we do too frequently. We wait to like thank someone or congratulate them for the right moment when we should just do it as often as we want. Because do you ever think like you can thank someone and then at the wrong timing and if you thanked them again that they would resent you for it? Like, I don't think if anyone thanked me twice, I would resent them for it.
No, I didn't have that thought. But one of the things that I was thinking about when I came over here was, you know, you always talk about influence is getting someone to do what you want them to do, but you want them to want to do it, right? You want to compel as opposed to propel, right? I don't want to tell you what to do. I want to give you a task, and I want you to feel the need to perform the task. That's the difference, right? And a lot of times what we do is we call it the carrot. You have the carrot, right? And one of the things that I was thinking about with the people and the aspects and so on and so forth, and there's only so many different kinds of carrots. Yeah. So let's turn it into a beefsteak, right? You got ribeye, you got sirloin, you got chuck, you got all these different cuts of meat. You got prime choice and
making me hungry.
Whatever there is. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to figure out what cut of beef do you want? What cut of beef is it that's actually going to make you do what I want you to do, but you want to do it, right? What is your carrot? But then, have you ever had a dog?
Yep.
You ever put your dog's food in the bowl? Like my dog is notorious for this. I feed him, and he's going through something. I have no idea what it is because he's a dog. He can't speak to me. I have to figure this out. But you know, whether it be a change of environment or who knows, the weather, maybe he's reacting to me. I have no idea. But my dog has went and not ate for 3 days. You know, very odd, right? There's food available. Yeah. He's good. He's not sick. He's not throwing up. He's not doing any of those things. He's not eating. He's still happy-go-lucky. He wants to go walk. He wants to, you know, he wags his tail. All those things, but he's not eating. And I think that's something that we experience in life is, you know, you have these people, and if you're good at what you do, I find the carrot, I feed you the carrot, you do what I want you to do. Now, I find the carrot, I feed you the carrot, you don't eat the carrot, you don't take the carrot, you don't want the carrot. Maybe you do what I want you to do, maybe you don't. That's where the emotional intelligence, and that's where the breakdown of a lot of things are. Is why do you not want the carrot? Why do you not want the chuck steak that I just made for you?
My desires have changed.
Or maybe it's the fact that instead of feeding it to you, or putting it in a place to where it was presentable, humane, I threw it at you. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't present it in a way. I didn't give it to you in a way. It wasn't genuine. I wasn't. And I have to figure that out, and I have to make amends. And now I give you the steak that you want, and so on and so forth. Probably a terrible analogy, but that's what people are. It's not all cut and dry. It's not all, hey, I'm going to reward you. You do good work. You did good work. I rewarded you. Maybe your mom's sick. You know? Maybe your pregnant wife is home and her power's out. Maybe you haven't had hot water in 5 months.
That pissed me off.
So that's the story over in, what is it? 30504 boys, whatever dorm that is. I had a kid.
He hasn't had a hot shower in 5 months?
He has not had hot water in 5 months. Oh, man. Why didn't you say anything? Well, I did. Why didn't you say something else? Well, I did. Why didn't you yell at someone? Why didn't you yell at me? Why didn't you? Well, I don't know. But you know what it took? Hey, man, how's everybody's water? It was when all that stuff was going on. How's everybody's water situation?
Yeah.
I haven't had hot water in 5 months. The fuck?
Yeah, and I don't want to call you out. It sounds like this dude was never told by his leaders regularly, hey, got any problems that I can solve? Like, it would be that, sounds like had that dude been asked that 4 months ago, he probably would have said something. And not call you or your people out, but it sounds like all it took.
So it's a very give and take thing. It's a very, I can't solve everyone's problems. I can't do those things. Mm-hmm. I can't make amends for every wrong that I ever did. I can't do that. Right? All I want to achieve from here on forward is just fix the things I can fix, make amends where I can be a better human.
I agree.
Be a better person.
Yeah. So something I definitely want to ask you is 20 years of experience. You've had a lot of mentors, a lot of people you probably hate. But something I really love capturing on this podcast is who my guests' top mentors are and like people you want to emulate. Who are they, if you would say their name? And then what is it about that person that made you like them so much?
So I have a lot. I have a lot over time. We talked about the tech sergeant. Roger Moist was his name. He's long retired, and he's not the person that you would think that retired going to the postal service, but he did.
Do you still talk to Roger?
I don't. I haven't talked to Roger in 20 years.
I think it'd be really cool. Yeah, I mean, that 20 years is a long time, but if you reached out and like made Roger listen to this, because I bet he would be surprised that someone remembers him 20 years. Just by the way he carried himself, I bet you he's not people's top pick as someone that they remember 20 years. And it would probably mean a lot to the motherfucker. He sounds like an asshole, but it sounds like...
That fits this time.
Yeah.
Because, it absolutely does. Roger Moist, he made a super huge impression on me very young. So I had a senior master sergeant at the time that was a big influence on me.
Guessing he made chief.
He did not make chief, and he has since become not such... So I think some of those big influences, those big mentors, like some of it is situational based and time based.
Yeah, sure.
Two people that will forever go down, and I'm sure there's going to be more, but two people that will forever go down as some very influential people in my life. They recognized me for me, recognized who I was, what I did, and just made me feel they did everything they could to help me. But that's Chief Krakowski and hopefully soon to be Chief Evans.
What did these two chiefs do, Krakowski and Evans?
So Chief Krakowski just recognized me. He wanted to know. He wanted to understand. He was not a weapons guy at all. He wanted to, he had enough awareness to realize that what we do is different, what we do matters, that he needed me. And it's shown, both personally and professionally. And I look up to that man.
So someone that wasn't even in your direct career field, just constantly reaching back to recognize you meant a lot. Recognition is huge, a lot of people don't realize that.
But it's not an award.
Yeah.
You're not,
a simple thank you.
You're not talking about an award. You're talking about
genuine
a push.
Yeah.
Hey man, go further. Keep going.
So simple.
Do your thing. Chief, I got doubt. I got doubt too. I got doubt every day. You gotta keep going.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You're this, and when he says those things, it's not lip service. It's an actual, no kidding. Like, I feel it.
Yeah, genuine compliments. You can't just like overdo it, be fake about it. But genuine compliments when someone does something, they'll remember that shit.
And then Senior Master Sergeant Derek Evans is probably the realest guy that I've ever known.
Is he here?
He's not.
Okay.
He's at Kadena.
Okay.
He's probably the realest guy that I've ever known. He has absolutely got the people aspect of things. I would like for him to know that. I would like for him to understand that that's the way I view him, that's the way I see him.
Just a link and tell him to skip to the end.
Just one of those things, like, if he heard half the things that I was struggling with, I wonder. I don't think he would. I think he would have some profound thing to say out of left field, like, King, man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But I almost wonder if it wouldn't be a disappointment. You know what I mean?
I don't think it would be. I don't think I keep up with less than 20 people in my life. But if any one of those 20 or even people I just know reached out needing any kind of help, I'm 99% sure I would do my best. So I'm sure Senior Evans would. Yeah, you should talk to him.
I talk to him all the time.
Yeah, like just tell him whatever it is that you got going on. The worst thing he's going to do is say you should talk to mental health, and you just be like, okay.
He's going to hear it.
That's awesome.
He's going to hear it.
Well, unless you got anything else, I try to always keep these things under 2 hours. So please, any last words you say, and we'll.
Actually, I do. I have one last thing to say, and it's what we talked about before. We talked about a lot of things, and I am ignorant. We used ignorance. We used a child. We called it multiple things. If there's anything that we said or we discussed or we talked about that is contrary to what any one of your listeners believes, my challenge is for them to reach out to you and I, individually or together, whatever. And you're actually the person that I would like to sit down and have a conversation with. You have the emotional intelligence, or at least believe that you do, and let's feed each other. That's my big challenge to your audience there.
Awesome. Yeah, anyone that wants to reach out to Andrew King, there's probably a billion of them on Facebook. Hit me up and I'll link you with them. And outside of that, if you want to have a conversation, man, I always like to talk. This is literally why I started this, to create a realm where people just want to talk to me and I can learn and grow. So I really appreciate you saying that. I'm really glad you got on here and shared what you did. I think you have a lot to offer that grown-ass men aren't usually common to share. So I really appreciate it. I hope that Senior and those Chiefs hear this thing from you. And man, I really appreciate you coming out here.
Did we get past vanilla? That's the question.
I think so.
Because we still got time. If we didn't, did we get past vanilla?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know if you listened to Genes or not, but I think it was there. I tried to just ask tough questions early on, and you didn't. Sometimes I thought you were holding back, so I just reattacked a little later. But I think we did.
No, there's no. I don't think there's some things that are a little personal. So
you still have more to share? We don't have to end this.
You mask it. I'll tell you one more story. So we were talking a little bit about just what people go through and the troubles and turmoils that people have and traumatic events. So there is one other thing that I would like to share with you guys, and this is near and dear. I'm sure it's near and dear to your heart as an air traffic controller. Most military members, especially in the Air Force, they're going to feel some sort of way. So I may get the dates just a little bit wrong, but I remember starting a journal. Ironically enough, I started a journal on December the 2nd of 2014.
Shit.
And the reason why I remember that date is because on December the 3rd of 2014, we had a pilot go down. I was deployed anywhere, everywhere, somewhere. Being in aircraft maintenance and doing what we do, like you see crashes around the Air Force. You see incidents. You see things. You see. I remember, at every base that I've been at, I've seen a crash. I've witnessed a crash. When I was at Mountain Home, when I first got into the B-1s, we had an entire crew go down in the Indian Ocean. I think they all made it out alive. I'm pretty sure they did. And then, 2 years, 3 years later, that's when the Thunderbird crashed at Mountain Home. So not traumatic, just an aircraft crash, right? I got to Barksdale, and Raider 21 went down. They lost everyone. That never hit close to me. Didn't know who they were, never saw them before, nothing. You can list names and you can talk about people and what they did, and I don't know those guys. I have no idea who they are. I got to Osan, and we crashed to 16. Very minor. It's actually
Where was that?
humorous. This was 2000. We crashed in 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Very young lieutenant come down. It was raining. He hit the runway, got squirrely, and instead of trying to salvage the airplane, he just punched. No idea if he should have punched. I'm not a pilot.
Yeah, me neither.
He survived, but it was pretty humorous to watch this 16. We're always concerned about FOD. This 16 was nose down in the ditch, just running. They had to let it run out of gas because they couldn't shut it off. They had to let it run out of gas. So it would just, and then shoot dirt, just clods of dirt up in the air. It was crazy.
Onto the runway.
And it run forever. We had a pilot go down when I got to Misawa. We were actually going TDY. This dude took off, barely got over the ocean, and I don't remember what happened, but he had to bail. He bailed. They found him. Luckily, they found him within like 7 hours or something like that. We went through the rest of that TDY with only 7 airplanes, which is kind of unusual, but that's like there was the 7 ship and then a 6 ship, however it worked out. Mm-hmm. But when he went down, like those 6, they turned around, they went back. So we went through the entire TDY with just the handful of airplanes that we had. He was safe. He was okay. Everything was good. Matter of fact, I think he actually come on the TDY. He just flew in because he was the commander. But then you get to this event. You get to a deployment coming out of Shaw. And I know these people. I see these people. I work with these people. I was debrief. So, the pilots, when we're at home station, the pilots, they fly their jets and then they come in and it's like working a service center, if you could imagine, working a service center at, Jiffy Lube or whatever. I'm driving my car and I have a problem, so I'm going to go into the service center. I'm going to tell you what's wrong with it. I was the guy they would tell what's wrong with the plane. Being deployed, however, I'm seeing these guys every flight 2 and 3 times a day. There's only so many pilots. There's only one of me. Like building a relationship. I got to wait on these guys. So I'm knowing these guys. I'm more familiar with them. There's more of a personal bond. And this guy went down. He didn't make it. Not at all. And I don't know this guy, but I know this guy. Like it's a lot closer to home than what you would imagine. A lot closer to home than just a pilot. I've seen pilots go down. No, this is my pilot. This is a guy that I sent, and I'm not even touching airplanes. So this is how traumatic this event was. All I'm doing is taking the service calls and handing those service calls over to a maintainer. I questioned the fact whether or not I took all those service calls for real, for legit. I turned them over. I wrote them up. I did my thing. And I gave accurate information to the maintainer to fix the airplane. So can't imagine the last dude who actually checked the air in the tire. I can't imagine the guy who checked the oil before he took off. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I struggled with that for a long time. Still struggle with that. It's still a traumatic event. I don't know there's PTSD or anything crazy like that. But I think it's a relevant event to where, people say you don't know what people are going through. People say that all the time. You don't know what troubles or turmoil someone has. That's an example of. And it don't have to be that significant. You see what I'm saying? And that was work. I questioned myself as a maintainer in that situation for months. And I never touched a wrench. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I never picked up the first wrench, and I still questioned myself.
So that moment after that happened, I guess you're saying like that caused a lot of stress, like in your life. You just feeling like you contributed to this pilot's death.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it could weigh a heavy burden on anyone.
Absolutely. You got so DCC is a program that's in the maintenance world. DCC, Dedicated Crew Chief. Mm-hmm. So if you could imagine NASCAR teams, you have a driver, that's your pilot, and then you have your pit crew. Well, the lead of the pit crew would be your DCC. That DCC could have never touched that airplane for the last 2 weeks, whatever, just based upon schedules or, how things work out and so on and so forth. Because it doesn't always work that way. But that DCC just lost his airplane and his pilot. You got to wonder, how did that dude take that? How does Super take that? The guy that actually runs the entire line, the dude who launched him, checking the oil, checking the intakes and the flight controls and all these things. How does that guy look at that situation? How does that guy cope now?
I couldn't answer that, but hopefully he's able to cope and get by. I don't know how I would do it.
And now you have a draconian leader. You have a person. We should have looked that up while you were pissing.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know what it means.
You have
how to spell it.
You have a person who's very pointed.
Mm-hmm. So a draconian leader is bad, right? It's like someone who exercises cohesive power and just...
We're going to look it up. We're going to look it up for your audience. Do you have your phone on you?
I do. I just don't know how to spell the word draconian.
Draconian, I think. If you get that far, it's going to...
That was it. You nailed it. Draconian meaning. Definition.
So before you actually read the definition, my understanding of a draconian leadership or the draconian leadership style is empirical. It's very, you're going to do what I say. It's very blunt. I'm going to force you to do what I want you to do.
That sounds pretty right. Google, you want me to tell you what Google said?
Sure.
Excessively harsh or extreme. I'm not going to reread it. Excessively harsh and severe. The Nazis destroyed the independence of the press by a series of draconian laws.
Yeah.
Except that's not a leader I want to work for.
Me either.
Yeah. So something that this reminds me of is the 5 powers of powers. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly
what
you're
cohesive, which sounds like draconian, which is like the Hitler style, do this or I will punish you or I will kill you, or very extreme, like do this or this bad thing will happen to you.
This is one of my favorite NCOA lessons,
is it
and I wish I knew what all 5 of them were, but it's referent, it's legitimate, it's positional.
Referent is just being liked, like people do it because they like you. Legitimate is a chief or a general, a high ranking positional power.
Well, the legitimate is just based upon position.
Yeah, positional power, which is usually a high ranking person for us. And then we got cohesive, which is people are afraid of being punished. Reward power, because people can give you gift. And the last one is knowledge power, just because you're smart and you actually know it. Like for a staff sergeant, a young staff sergeant who's the expediter, like people go to you because you obviously just know how to get shit done, even though you really shouldn't be the one people go to. Those are the 5 powers. And it's interesting because if you can master all 5 of those and use them in the right moments, you can influence damn near everybody.
You can also use them in a very destructive manner.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
That's very destructive, very, very personal. But yeah, that's my thing. And you look at those, and it's not necessarily about being referenced. I don't want to be liked.
If you could only pick one of those 5, what are you picking? Andrew King is known for this power.
I am known for the knowledge base. I'm known for being very good at what I do.
Are you happy with that?
To an extent, yeah.
If you could pick a different one, what would you pick?
I don't think we got all 5 of them right.
I think we did. Magical.
I think there's no, because you have. I thought, and this could be me showing more of my ignorance, but
legitimate, reward, expert, referent, coercive. I think we got it. Legitimate, positional.
I thought there was one that was informative.
Not according
expert power is the knowledge, but I thought you had one that was shows what I know.
Hey, we're all learning.
I believe you.
I believe it. All right.
I believe you, but I thought you had one where like they were in control of information, not expert, right? But you had one where
I see what you're saying. Like you control the flow. Maybe so. These 5 powers were identified in 1959. Maybe there was a 6th one, and they're like, "Well, the internet exists now. You can't control the flow of info
I don't remember.
Anymore. Everyone's got information."
I don't remember which one would I want to be. I really don't know. That's very hard to know and understand, because you don't want to be coercive. You don't want to blackmail.
I want to meet the motherfucker that's like, oh, I love coercive power. I know a lot of coercive power leaders. Coercive.
Yeah, and then you have a reward. So I think we will reward people. I think we do, but you don't want to be known for rewards.
Sure.
That's not necessarily influence. That's I'm now paying you for you doing what I want you to do.
But some people respond really well to recognition and reward. So, like, for those people, you got to figure out whose stake that is in your words, and that's how you use that power for them.
Yes, I do agree with you there. Eventually, the rewards are going to run out, though.
For us, you and I aren't big guys on rewards, but some people, that is what they live for.
The rewards are not going to be there. It is just what it is. I think reference plays a part in some of that. But then again, it's not about being liked. So I don't know that that's necessarily. And again, you're talking about there's good and bad sides to all of those. So
it matters what you want. If you want to be the president, you need referent power, and nothing else really. And you just got to be liked.
And we've already talked a little bit about I have a very negative lens on things right now. So maybe I'm just looking at it the wrong way.
Sure,
could be.
This could be something you reflect on 2 years from now. Rewatch this 2-hour thing and be like, I don't really think that way anymore. People are constantly changing their ideas on leadership and views and opinions. It's just constantly changing. Like all the time, just hearing you talk or other people I've listened to talk, I'm like, I side more with that.
I think you're gonna go through that. I think as you learn and grow, you're gonna experience different ideals, and you have to find your way, because there is no right way. You go back to the people are calculus. Mm. There's 1,000 different ways to solve for X. And most of them are right as long as you get to X.
But there's formulas that hit X faster and quicker than other formulas. And those are like the formulas we got to learn to hit X.
I think you just summarized the entire podcast.
That's it. What is the most effective formula to hit X?
And we don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
But that's what leadership is understanding just how to use emotional intelligence and IQ, or whatever that actually stands for, and all these different ideas on how to influence people to get better at it. There's just so many avenues, and there's not a one-size-fit-all. And that's why I love this and talk to people, is because I'm getting better through it. it makes me just not only hear other people's ideas, but revalidate my own ideas on how to be a better leader for whenever that opportunity comes up.
You probably didn't go through this lesson as you went through NCOA or PME or anything crazy like that, and I don't see it on your bookshelf over there. Did you ever talk about strength-based leadership?
Nope.
You never talked about it?
I don't
Never
think
discussed that? I think that was a lesson that we learned, and I think that was something that had some value to it. But for whatever reason, they lose the contract with the book or whatever. I don't know how all that shit works. Money baffles me just as much as people does. They stopped teaching that. And we talk about healing. We talk about amending relationships. I talked to a young man. And this dude, kindest, sweetest gentleman that you've ever met. And I treat him like everybody else, but nothing ever really stood out that I had done significantly wrong. But this was a genuine conversation. And he told me outright, he said, I don't see it that way at all. Everything you did to make me better. And I got better. I'm better. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's cool, man. I'm really glad that you took that away from me. However, you are a sweetheart. And I told him just like that. You're a sweetheart. But what you have to understand is that just because I made you better and I showed you something good in me, I showed you something good in you, there's a better way to get there. And you are twice the human being that I'll ever be, right? And then it comes out. Now the conversation starts. And he told me, he said, I did realize that, and I did change, and I am better. So even as we're having the conversation, you can see that he's acknowledging his own evolvement as we go through this. He still thanked me, but it was very eye-opening in a lot of ways to have this young man. We're talking when he worked for me, he was an airman. Young man, and now he's a staff sergeant. He's a leader of his own right. And he said, I still call on the person that you made me when I need to, when I have to. But I'm very much who you recognize me to be. And I saw that, and I needed to bring that back. Don't ever change, man. That's
I agree 100%. And it just shows that recognition thing, because a lot of people, if they got that recognition from a young man, they just would blow it off or not really remember it. But I don't know how long ago that was, but clearly it was sentimental to you for you to talk about it. And that just shows how simple it is, that those little rewards, even though we don't want to be reward leaders, they are very meaningful in the right moments, because you're still reminiscing on this guy who was like, you made me the staff sergeant I am. And it's important to you. You might not want to say yes to that, but that is important to you. And as you go on, when you get out of the military, Tech Sergeant Moist, that dude, like, he hasn't heard from you in 20 years. Shit like hearing, hey, man, you made me this, is so changing for people's lives. And we just don't do that. It's just not cool to let people know that you fucking impacted me in a great way.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like,
That's
this
fair.
young man, hopefully, I don't know what his name is, but he should hear this. He should realize that him just telling you that was really important and beneficial for you when you're pretty fucking sad in your saddest days.
When you get done doing all the podcast magic, I'm going to plaster this everywhere.
What does plaster this everywhere mean?
I'm gonna post links.
Oh, dude,
everywhere.
I appreciate that. I do.
I say everywhere. I'm only on Facey Space.
Hey, that's a lot. Yeah, I mean,
so it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, I just think it's cool to like have a guy who, I'm just repeating myself, top 3 president, master sergeant, been in 20 years, traveled all over Asia. I'm actually kind of curious what your favorite Asian travel destination is. You do all these really cool things, and for one day me just be at the CAC with a girl or with a friend hanging out, and for you to just be there by yourself, like, what's up, man? Come join us. And you just openly be like, yeah, just kind of sad right now, And I was like, oh, fuck, like, what's sad, And you were very open about it. And And I actually felt kind of like a shithead that one of the first things I asked you after you said it's sad, like, and you were like open and talking about it, I was like, hey, you want to talk about it on my podcast? I think it'd be great for people to hear it. Yeah, and I think it was about 20 minutes in when I finally told you that, and that you were just so willing to. Yeah, I think that's great. To be honest, I don't know if we hit everything that I thought it would be, but I still think this was a great podcast.
So, you say you're a shithead, and maybe given a different circumstance, you might have been. I don't think you were. This is kind of my perspective, and it's the fact that I'm trying to deal with things, and a lot of that dealing with things is actually interacting with other people. So maybe this is an avenue to where, hey, I didn't have this conversation with this guy.
Yeah.
Now I post this link, and they see these things, and they hear these words, and so it's like, oh shit, like.
I bet you're going to have a couple people reach out to you and be like, hey man, you doing okay? Maybe they'll be generic. Maybe they'll be more in depth and bring up things you've had in the past. But this is an avenue. More people are going to be open to you're not. Andrew King might be in the best time of his life right now, but maybe he's not doing well, and I should reach back to the dude that influenced me and made this young man a staff sergeant. There's going to be a lot of people who reach out to you, I think, through this.
So I hope this reaches more people. So here's a want, right? For me or for you or for whoever may listen, and whatever the sphere of influence is. But I hope this reaches more people before they make a decision to change something based upon how they've been treated. I hope there's an understanding that, because we were talking about Carpenter. We were talking about a staff sergeant.
Is that the young man?
That's the young man.
What's his first name?
Andrew.
Okay.
We were talking about him, and great fucking dude. Great fucking dude. I can't believe it took me 10 years to tell him. So, hey, man, you're a great fucking dude. He's out, and whether he got out because of what I did, what I said, who I was, how I treated him. Did he? Did he not? What if I would have treated that dude better? What if I would have said, hey, man, you really fucking rocked this. You did such a fantastic job on X, and then give him some pointers or give him some tips to actually meet my desires. You see what I'm saying? That's how easy that conversation could have been.
That's influence.
That's how easy that conversation could have been. Oh, man, you're a piece of shit. You fucked this up. Took 12 minutes too long. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Why would you do that?
Some people respond well to that too.
And that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Pick your easy. Pick your easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
there's so many ways to influence people, and you can't learn all from your numbers. 72 of them. You kind of have to be yourself at points. You want to be you want to treat people how they want to be treated. Not that's a thing I heard recently. Don't treat people how you want to be treated. Treat them how they want to be treated. And you can't do that for all 72 people.
That's Mike Thompson, by the way.
Thanks, Mike. I wanted the wise credit for that. You gave it away.
No,
Mike,
you guys. So last thing I'll say, I know we've been rambling on, and you got work tomorrow and so on and so forth. Last thing I'll say is there is absolutely an aspect of magnetism when you start talking about people who, come together and do things and share ideals and bounce shit off one another. It's no accident that you and I are friends. It's no accident that Mike's gonna listen to this.
Better.
Those things, those people, we gravitate towards one another, and it's only a matter of time. You know what I mean? Who was it the other day that was talking about iron sharpens iron and all this other mess and so on and so forth? And she was very enthusiastic about it. And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Is that Angie Holden?
Yeah. Wasn't in the best of moods at that particular time.
You were trying to go play softball.
It was very cliche and just, oh my goodness. But she's absolutely correct.
Yep.
Like, she's been drawn into our circle. And she's a sweetheart. I saw her 2 or 3 times. And every time I see her, she's like, you still on leave? Yep. all right, I'll talk to you next week. Like she won't talk to me because she's like, you're on leave.
That's cool.
I'm not talking business with you. You're on leave. You know.
I like that.
But yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's a great addition to our team.
I agree. Yeah, I wish she would have came sooner.
Yeah. So
I was considering inviting her on here. I just don't know her well enough to be like, hey, you want to just come ramble on my podcast on your views on leadership, you know? Yeah, but I think she'd be open to it. Maybe I'll send her just this last bit and be like, hey, what do you think?
Yeah. I think she'll be down for it. I think she'll be open for it. She'd probably be a little bit nervous. I was nervous. Just one of those things.
I got to figure out how to make people less nervous.
I don't think it's you. I think it's sharing a story with the world. I think it is. I think it's sharing a story with the world. I was told it at one point way back when in my life. Anything you put in the digital world, it never goes away. It never truly disappears. Anything you post on Facey Space or anything crazy like that, you can go and you can delete and you can edit and you can change and you can, hey, trash that. It never disappears.
Yeah.
That exists somewhere. So we've recorded this. You're going to edit this. And then eventually we're going to push this out into the abyss, wherever that may be.
Friday is probably when this will be out.
Could you imagine? Let me ask you a question. Could you imagine?
Hold on, before you answer, this is nice. People don't ever ask me questions on this, so this is nice to do the old.
I've got a couple questions for you.
We got like a whole book.
You'll have to edit a little bit there, 218.
Yeah, it's fine. It didn't take long.
Whatever. So I got a question for you. Just because we've been sitting here talking about, we talk about podcasts, and one of the first things I think about when I think about podcasts is Joe Rogan. Obviously,
Sure.
You listen to Joe Rogan. So could you imagine if this was the podcast, the very first and maybe the only that the aliens heard?
I feel like the odds of this being this one over a Joe Rogan or anything else that's significantly more popular than this. But in an infinite universe, there will be an infinite amount of aliens who are going to hear an infinite amount of podcasts, and eventually this will be the one. And under that case, they'd probably be like, Earth's pretty boring. Let's find the next planet.
I don't know. You think we're boring? We could be boring.
If they could like intergalactically get anywhere, and all we're doing is talking about our leadership. They've got leadership philosophy pinned down, and the fact that we are fucking little ants that don't even know what we're doing, we're not worth their time.
You think they're that far advanced?
Oh, if they're getting all the way here to listen to this podcast, yeah.
All right, fair enough. You win. So aliens do exist, and they're far, far advanced from what we are.
We're not worth their time for a pit stop.
So these are some of the questions. These are 3 questions specifically that I was challenged with to integrate in the way that I interface with people, right?
Where'd you get these questions from?
Where do you think?
Mlac.
Dougie Brown.
Ah, good job, Doug.
All right. So the first one is, what is the strength that you think I have that you want to make sure that you have, that you want to emulate?
Your willingness to be the top 3 president, I think, is really cool, with no prior experience in top 3 or 5, 6 or bottom 4 or whatever the first 4.
Oh, I have experience. I just never been in like the wing top 3. I was just like last year, the MXG, the group, a very large group, but I was the group vice president top 3.
Okay, it's a little bit of experience. But I guess the idea of just being able to put yourself out there, you knowing very little about ALA, for instance. I was just like, hey, come to this meeting. You came there and started speaking your mind, ate the chicken I brought. You're willing to just put yourself out there. And if it doesn't work out, like, I feel like I'm afraid. Like, I used to play chess, and now I don't. And I hear about chess clubs around, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go in there and not be the best. Like, if I'm not the best at something, I don't want to fucking do it. And that hinders me a lot, because there's a lot of things. Golf. Even though people keep inviting me to go play golf, that was my goal out here, to learn to play golf. I don't do it because I'm not good. And when people invite me, I'm like, even though it's a nice day and I've got nothing better to do, I find an excuse to say no because I know I'm not the best. But when people that don't know how to play golf invite me, I'm like, yeah, I might win this. So that's something I want to get better at, and that you do is you just subject yourself to these potential failures all the time.
We're going to go play golf then.
You're better than me, so no.
we're going. All right.
You got to play left-handed.
So the second, I might still be.
Let's do it.
So the second question is, tell me a weakness that you see in me that you make sure that you don't have in yourself.
That's a good one. A weakness so something that I'm strong at that you're not. Understanding that there's all sorts of different powers and ways to lead, and that you're going to fuck up and you just have to get over it. I know that's an easy thing to say, but I think I get over my mistakes way easier than you. I realize I'm always willing to get better. I realize there's so many avenues and ideas that I don't understand yet, that I'm learning. And yeah, I easily remove myself from times I fucked up. Like even you being able to talk to this woman from 2014 and move on and feel better. Relationships I've had, I don't even want to talk to them. I just struggle to even consider bringing that back up in those ideas. So I just would rather just not do it. Yeah.
So to be fair, right, just something to throw out there is there is a little bit of understanding when you're talking with someone. Like I know this woman and I have been friends, not the best of friends. We want to be best friends. We want to be good friends. But there is a mutual desire to heal one another. So if you're avoiding an instance to where there's not that mutual desire to heal one another, then I would say that that's probably the best move. Like that is not avoidance. That is you just not wanting to waste your time, not wanting to waste your mental capacity trying to think through and figure out whatever you think happened in that situation and whatever closure you came to. Mm-hmm. That's probably the best closure you're going to get in that situation.
Yeah, I appreciate that because it is a struggle. But yeah, I just don't want to be sad again. It's just sad to open that door back up.
And I would say that's absolutely fair. Yeah. I think that's something that you earned, just because you're not going to get better.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I need to hear that right now. So thanks for saying it.
Final question. I'm probably going to muck this up because I don't think he typed it out all right. And then we'll close with that. Tell me one thing you see in me that I could change that would make the biggest change in myself.
Understanding that you can only really influence the people around you, and you have to just genuinely keep trying. Just the amount of time it took you to appreciate that one young man, or even that one guy that made BTC. It sounds like you really haven't given the credit he deserves yet. That's what I would do. Just anytime you see people make these big, significant life strides, is let them know that they did it, and don't be afraid to tell them more than once, because that's what it seems like. What's important to you is that people aren't getting taken care of. That's what's making you sad, or at least half of it. And I think you have the power to influence everyone around you because you're an influential dude. So that's what I would say. Anytime people do these big moments, fucking let them know.
Persistence.
Yeah.
In a word,
yeah. And
is that your word or is that my word?
It's your word. It's a good word, and maybe I would have said it if I was thinking of it.
What's your word?
Genuine appreciation, I guess, is what I would go with.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's 2 words, but...
Appreciation.
All right, man.
Cool. Hey, I'm glad you didn't let me end this. I thought the last, 30-ish minutes was good. Again, thanks for coming. I'm hungry and willing to get food if you want to go walk over to the CAC. I won't pressure you into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome. Everyone, Andrew King, podcast number 4.
Thank you for making it to the end, or skipping to the end if that's what you did. Regardless, you're here now. Thanks to Roscoe, my knowledge and ability to help people has increased. Through his experiences, stories, and our mutual realization that we should make some inquiries with our local clinic. Anita explained so much to me that I didn't know. Mental health offers help by establishing healthy thinking within their patients. They only break confidentiality when someone suggests harm to themselves, harm to others, or harm to the mission. Military and Family Life Counseling Program, MFLAC, have flexible schedules and can meet you anywhere. They must also only break confidentiality when you suggest harm to yourself, others, or the mission. They do not offer treatment, just counseling. There are many other places to get help. Primary Care Behavioral Health, PCBH, formerly known as BHOP, offers counseling sessions that last approximately 30 minutes and provides people with education and a roadmap to go forward. The chaplain in religious affairs are willing to let you just talk. They offer complete confidentiality during sessions and cannot break confidentiality, even if you suggest hurting yourself or others. If you're looking for someone to just talk to freely, that's an avenue you should look at. The list of helpful resources goes on. Airman Family Readiness Center, Victim Advocates, First Sergeants, Military One Source. The best piece of advice Anita gave me is that you can always call a mental health clinic and ask them a hypothetical question for you or for someone else, and they will point you in the right direction on which source you should seek out. Thanks for listening. This isn't the usual type of podcast I envisioned when starting this, but it was a good conversation and educated me in an area that I should have already been familiar with. Have a Tisue Podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and Anchor.